Welcome into the In the Money podcast for Saturday, March 3rd, a huge day at Gulfstream Park, headlined by the Grade 2 Fountain of Youth on the road to the Kentucky Derby and really to the Florida Derby, with this being a prep for the Florida Derby, which then leads into the Run for the Roses. Jim Goodman's off this week, so I'm Tom Leach, and Ellis Starr is joining me to help handicap. We're going to talk about the Fountain of Youth, a couple of the other graded stakes that are part of a stellar card, and then we're going to give you a late pick 4 ticket as well, races 11 through 14. And you can also find Ellis's Race of the Week on the Keeneland Select page. And this week it's one of the ones we're going to be talking about, the 13th, the Mac Diarmida Stakes. So, Ellis, let's jump in to the Fountain of Youth. And this is 3-year-olds going a mile and a 16th. You've got the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Champ Good Magic making his 3-year-old debut. Question is here, are you going to try to beat him?
A little bit, Tom, because it's just an interesting race. You know, horses that come back making their first start to the year, especially off big wins, two things are going on, of course, whether they're actually going to be so fit and ready with the bigger picture on the line. But he does need some points. Breeders' Cup Juvenile was not a 50-point race, you know, it was 20. And so he has to come up to it. But Chad Brown is so good with comebackers. I did a stat with our Stats Race Lens product. He's 60 to 180 days. He's 13 for 39 dirt routes, and it's just tough to leave him out. But I do like the 5 Storm Runner as the horse. I think that could post a mild upset here. He's got 2 routes under his belt. I drew a line through his turf race on January 13th, and he won his other 2 dirt routes, and pretty strongly. The one was 4.5 lengths in November, then February 4th over the track just a month ago by a neck gamely. Very mature from off the pace, and his Echo-based speed figure, by the way, was better than Good Magic last fall and as good as Strike Power's Swale, and we know Strike Power. And I think there's going to be a lot of pace in the race. I can't imagine promises fulfilled from the outside, who's cutting back to a sprint. He's run 45 to the half mile. I can't imagine Machismo also running less than about 45 and change. You've got Strike Power, whose both wins are wire to wire. I think there's going to be a ton of pace. So I think Storm Runner is the horse I like to get up at a price. I'm going to use Good Magic. I'm going to use Free Drop Billy because he's going to benefit from the pace. And I might go a little deeper. We'll talk about that when we get to pick 4.
I am going to give another shot to Free Drop Billy. I picked him last time, and he ran second to Audible, who was a very impressive winner. I went back and watched the race. Free Drop Billy was well ahead of the third-place finisher. Got his best buyer figure off the layoff in the first start off the layoff for Romans. And the speed that you mentioned, I think, should help him in here, working really well. So I'm going to give him another shot, mainly because I get more value on him than I will on Good Magic. Obviously, Good Magic's the one to beat. Strike Power's the other one I think I would like in here. But I think I'm going to just take a stand with 2 horses in the when we get to the pick 4, because this card is so tough that you've got to kind of take a stand somewhere and do it probably without a lot of confidence. But that's what we're left with. So Free Drop Billy for me in the Fountain of Youth. The 13th race is the Grade 2 Mac Diarmida at 1 mile and 3/8 on the turf. And I thought this one was really tough to narrow down. I took a look at 3 or 4 different horses. Finally had to scratched out the one I originally picked, ended up, because I was narrowing down the ticket the more I looked at it. I ended up with Chad Brown, taking a little flyer here on Bernay, the 7, second off a long layoff, just mainly out of respect for Chad Brown. I'm going to take a shot with this horse that could maybe juice up the pick 4. But I think Sadler's Joy definitely merits a long look in here. Patterson Cross, the 8. Summon TMA, I think, is a nice horse for Kenny McPeak, and comes off a nice effort, a little more recency for this horse. And then Mook Taser, if that's how that's pronounced, for Kieran McLaughlin with Joe Bravo, I think could be dangerous in here. There are others that I liked as well, but I narrowed it down. I think if in that race I'd maybe box those 5 at a little $2 exacta, and I'm going to use all 5 of them on my pick 4 ticket. This is the race, as we mentioned, Ellis, that you write about for the Keeneland Select blog. How do you see this one?
Well, when we get to the pick 4 in the first leg, race 11, I'm going to single because I really want to spread in this race. And I've got 8 here, believe it or not, of 12. And I think this is a race that either makes it or breaks it. Sadler's Joy is going to be really the favorite after winning $1 million last year. And he's a very good turf horse. I'm going to use him in the pick 4, not even reluctantly, but I'm hoping some of the others win. You know, with 11 prongs on the grass, There could be traffic trouble for everybody from the favorite to the long shot, and there's so many horses that can run. If I had to make a top pick, I would probably say it's Muktazir or Muktazer, as you said. I'm not sure, but he ran 5 good races in a row to end his 2017 campaign, beaten a head and a half in the Kentucky Turf Cup, beaten a length in the Knickerbocker. Joe Bravo rode him in all 5, rode him great. Kieran McLaughlin for Shadwell. I like, of course, Shadler's Joy. As we said, he did run second last year in his comeback for 2017, beating ahead in the McKnight, which is also a marathon on the grass, a grade 3. So he doesn't have to win, but he certainly has it. And what's interesting, by the way, the Breeders' Cup Turf, I have a key race indicator that I use, and it's really cool. I didn't realize this. Not only did Highland Real win back in Europe, who'd finished 3rd, but the 7th horse won the San Gabriel in California, and the 12th and 13th both won grade 3 stakes coming out of the Breeders' Cup Turf. So that was the power of that race. The 8 Patterson Cross you mentioned, got to use him. Mott's so dangerous off a layoff. You wouldn't expect this. He's almost 20% off 180 days or more going back the last few years, going long. Yep, very good. Summon TMA, who you mentioned as well, Gold Shield to 6. I'm throwing him in just to go mention all my horses. The 9 Nessie and the 12 Oscar nominated, who ran 1-2 in the McKnight this year, and the 10 Runtime. Maker's got 3, and I'm not going to leave one out and get bit by it. So we're going to go deep. My top pick has to be the 4 Muktazir.
The 12th race is the Gulfstream Park Sprint at 6.5 furlongs, so just a 16th longer than a normal sprint, which could play into those horses that may be cutting back or that like 7 furlongs. Where did you land in the Gulfstream Park Sprint?
I went to the outside on top. I'm going to use 4 horses here, 11, 1, 6, 9. But 11, Rockefellers. When I see George Navarro and a horse with speed, I just look to see if there's anything that can outrun the horse. And he did get caught last time out in the second level allowance. Before that, he won by 6 in the sloppy track. But those are 2 huge races. And knowing how Navarro trains with XY Jet and all those great sprinters he has, this horse is going to be gunned. And if he gets an easy lead, I don't see anybody catching him. So he's my top pick. I like the 1 Extravagant Kid. It's very intriguing for me when a good trainer like Brendan Walsh reaches in and claims a horse, in this case $75,000, and puts him in a stake. He was probably looking at the condition book when he did that, and gets John Velasquez off a win. This horse has won 3 of his last 4. The 6 Favorable Outcome, again, Chad Brown, just like you, showing respect to Chad Brown. He won fresh in November. He's coming back off a layoff after running 3rd in the Malibu at Santa Anita. And the 9, Mr. Jordan, who just loves to win races. He's 8 for 26. He has had some trouble in the last 2 races in the stretch, but those are a mile and 16th, a mile and 8. Cutting back to a sprint, he's going to have a lot of extra stamina in the stretch. So 11, 1, 6, 9 for me.
I like your angle on Extravagant Kid. That's the one I ended up landing on with high-priced claim and coming right back in the stake. We saw that, I think, last year at Keeneland in a turf sprint where they claimed, I think, Hoagie for like 80 or 100,000, and then wheeled him right back in a stake, and he won. So I think that's a really good angle. I like Johnny V taking the ride too, and Walsh is a sharp trainer. So just a lot of reasons to kind of pull me to the 1 Extravagant Kid. Got to use Favorable Outcome for Chad Brown. The horse was 3rd in a Grade 1 Malibu, good 7 furlong sprint. I'm going to use Rockefellers as well, same angles you talked about. So I'm going to take a stand with those 3. I think if I went one more, it'd be either Mr. Jordan or 8 Town, who kind of had a clunker last time but had really good form before that, so I think he could be dangerous. But this just kind of illustrates how difficult it is to keep the ticket affordable. So I'm going to take a stand with 3 in here. So the pick 4 starts in the 11th race, and that's good because it's a maiden race for 3-year-olds going a mile on the 16th. And I say it's good because you get to see at least if some money shows on 1 or 2 of these horses as you put your ticket together. So that can be helpful. I ended up going deep in here. I like the 1 Personal Time for Shug McGahee, big improvement in his 3rd start. But I got to use Pletcher the 2. I'm going to use the 6 Rare Form, the 8 Numero 13. Just Saez is riding so well. He's ended up on this horse. And then Traveling Midas the 9. So 1, 2, 6, 8, 9. I'm going to use 5 there. Then I'm going to use Extravagant Kid, Favorable Outcome, Rockefellers in the next one. Then I'm going to use all 5 that I mentioned in the Mac Diarmida, and then Free Drop Billy and Good Magic. So I'm 4 by 3 by 5 by 2, which by my math is $75 for a 50-cent ticket. A little more than I go, but it's just so hard to narrow this down. And if you're going to swing at it, you want to at least give yourself a fighting chance. So what's your ticket look like? You're singling in this first race, right?
I'm going to single. Before I mention the single, the single's going to be the one personal time, but I want to mention that there's a horse in this race I'm betting $2 or $5 across the board on. He's going to be a huge price. It's number 4, B.I. Moody. When I was in for the NHC and we were demoing Racelands, I made a bet on this horse, and he ran 5th of 13 at 99 to 1, actually 120 to 1. Just because Eric Goulot is just Guillot is just such an interesting trainer, and this horse is some great breeding on both sides. He ran on from 11th to 5th. I think he could hit the board, so just mention that. Personal time, this is where I'm going to try and cut the ticket down a little bit. I have 2 tickets, one's 64, one's 96, a little higher than I like to go, but I really don't want to get stuck in the last race. So one ticket has 4 horses in the Fountain of Youth, and one has 6. In this race, personal time, I know he's a deep closer, but boy, did he improve, as you mentioned, last time out, rallying from 10th to 2nd, a huge edge in equity speed figures over the rest of the field. So I'm just going to take a shot and start there. So my ticket's going to be the one personal time in the 11th, 1, 6, 9, 11, extravagant kid, favorable outcome, Mr. Jordan Rockefellers in the 12th, 8 deep in the 13th, just giving out the numbers here, 1, 2, 4, 6, 8, 9, 10, 12. And then the cheaper ticket in the pick 4 in the last, the Fountain Youth, is going to be the 2 free drop Billy, the 5, a Storm Runner, the 6 Good Magic, and the 7 Gotta Go, who I didn't mention. 2, 5, 6, 7. I didn't mention Gotta Go. He ran second to Strike Power. I think Strike Power is going to get tired. And then if I go deeper, I like the 1 He Takes Charge for Mark Cassie off a maiden win at the Trip. And the 8 Marconi is a horse, if he ever gets his act together, he's a half-brother to Mucho Macho Man. If he ever gets his act together, because he's a little kind of gawky out of the gate, he ran 3rd in the Withers, he could win. He's actually, if you remember back, Mucho Macho Man, in his second start as a 3-year-old, won the Risen Star. And this is Marconi's second start as a 3-year-old. So I know that's kind of reaching, but that's what I did. So that ticket, 1, 2, 5, 6, 7, 8 in the last is $96 ticket. If you cut out and just go 2, 5, 6, 7, it's 64.
It's a boatload of stakes on the card down at Gulfstream on Saturday, so it's a great betting day. We certainly wish you good luck. You can look for Ellis's analysis of the race of the week. It's the Diarmida this week, but it's up there every week. And it's, at Ubercapper on Twitter?
At Ubercapper on Twitter, that's correct.
All right. Thanks to Ellis Starr for pinch hitting for Jim Goodman this week. I'm Tom Leach, and this is the In the Money podcast for KeenelandSelect.com.